The girl didn't scream. She blinked once, adjusted the fraying collar of her volunteer medic tunic, and faced the cameras with a dignity that unsettled more viewers than it impressed. Her eyes, a plain gray that had likely seen far too much for 19 years, didn't flinch as the restraints locked over her wrists. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Concordia Senate, half a dozen species were gathered to witness what they proudly called a necessary lesson in cosmic order. A long-necked ambassador from the Corvex Empire clinked his crystalline mandibles in amusement. Earthlings are always so fragile. It's the drama, they live for it. You'd think death would be less theatrical for them by now. Another senator, squat and amphibious, with a voice like syrup down a drainpipe, burbled his agreement. Their attachment to individual units is comical. This one wasn't even a soldier. She fixed bones and fetched water. And now, her planet sends lawyers and mourning songs. Not even a fleet. Laughter rippled through the Senate chamber like static through a bad signal. On every hovering holo panel, the execution feed rolled live. The girl, center stage in the Judiciary Dome on Kepral 5, backlit by sterile white lights. Her head remained high. She wasn't trembling. No music. No farewell. Just silence and countdown. For seconds to disintegration. In the rear of the chamber, sipping lukewarm tea from a porcelain cup that somehow survived a dozen diplomatic missions, Elias Rain watched the girl as one might watch a setting sun, quietly, with a kind of old grief he no longer explained. His suit was conservative, gray, human-tailored. He wore no medals, no weapons, just a discreet embassy pin tucked near his lapel and a book, a worn paperback, tucked beneath one arm. The book, of course, had no purpose. It simply gave him something to hold. Ambassador Rain, drawled the Corvex delegate, pivoting in his hover seat. I hope your government won't file more sanctions over this. It's already been quite a tedious ordeal, all the posturing. Elias offered a soft smile. Oh, we wouldn't dream of it. A pause. Would you like some tea? The Corvex clicked in confusion. The screen shifted. The girl closed her eyes. The dome filled with white. Then nothing. No sound. No scream. Just a flicker. And a human life turned to ash in front of 3 billion viewers. A smug sigh rose through the chamber. Another alien, some scale-faced tactician from the far Glalian sector, muttered, honestly, they should be thanking us. Efficient executions save resources. Very considerate of us. The hollow screen shimmered and froze. An error code blinked. Signal interrupted. Then a different image filled the chamber. No longer live footage. Now, a single quote in Terran script, centered in glowing crimson. I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. A second passed. Then 2. Then 3. Somewhere a light bulb buzzed out in the rafters. A nervous aide fluttered over to one of the control panels and tapped twice. Minor transmission feedback, she stammered. I'll recalibrate the... Leave it, said Elias gently, standing. He set down his cup, tucked the book under his arm again, pulled back his sleeve, and checked the old analog wristwatch no alien in the room had ever seen before. He nodded. 8 minutes, he whispered to himself. Right on time. He turned to go, nodding politely to the stunned ambassador who was still trying to process the tea offer. Always a pleasure, gentlemen, Elias said warmly. You've been illuminating. Wait, the Corvex delegate said, his expression tightening. What do you mean 8 minutes? But Elias had already walked out, the chamber door hissing shut behind him. The aliens turned toward one another, confused. On screen, the quote pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Then, a low rumble, distant, almost imperceptible. The kind that doesn't belong in a Senate building. What is that? Someone muttered. The hollow screen flickered again. Now it showed Kepral 5. From orbit. Live feed restored. And from orbit, you could see the clouds folding into themselves. A ripple spreading outwards, light bending strangely as if embarrassed to witness what came next. The surface of the planet cracked, not explosively, but silently. A slow yawn from the planet's crust, like something buried was rising. No missile had struck. No ship appeared. Just something ancient and wrong moving underneath. That's not possible. whispered the amphibious delegate. But it was. Kepral, 5 folded inward like a paper flower dipped in flame. One half of the planet vanished. The other half boiled. The entire broadcast cut to black again. Panic gripped the chamber like a sudden loss of gravity. Was that retaliation? Did Earth do this? Impossible. They haven't even left their gravity well in a decade. They have nothing in orbit. Nothing that could. A new screen appeared, this time showing a quiet log screen with a single update. Galactic Systems report. 19 Concordia planets, signal lost. The amphitheater erupted into chaos. Some called their fleets. Others screamed at aides. One senator accused another of sabotage. The air grew thick with a scent of alien fear sweat and static ozone. In the quiet corners of the room, only 2 aides noticed a faint noise playing on repeat from a back-channel broadcast. A human voice. Soft. Calm. Female. It repeated every 12 seconds. This is Arden Vale, Earth Coalition Aid Worker number 3287. If you're hearing this, I've already been executed for a crime I didn't commit. But don't worry. I'm not the punishment. I'm the fuse. Who is that? Barked the Glalian tactician, eyes wide. No one answered. Outside, the sky over Concordia's capital dimmed. Not nightfall, something else. Something falling. A field of silver motes, like ash or snow, descending slowly, soundlessly, across the skyline. The senators burst into argument, demands, threats, denials. And somewhere beneath all the noise, a single Terran proverb flickered into being across every active screen, broadcast in every known tongue. You should have left the poets alive. They're the ones who bury kings. The doors of the chamber opened once more. An aide stumbled in, eyes wide. There's a ship descending, she gasped. Human registry. No weapons. No demands. They're just landing. The Corvex ambassador staggered back into his seat, clutching the edge. Impossible, he muttered. They're not capable. They're not ready. He looked up, trembled. And they're not supposed to be angry. Somewhere, far above the Senate chamber, Elias Rain stepped out of the shuttle onto foreign soil with a smile on his face and blood already on his shoes. The first planet burned before the sirens even started. Kepler 5's atmosphere didn't explode. It collapsed. Softly, as if the sky had grown tired of holding itself up. Birds fell first, then satellites. Then gravity itself began to flutter like a broken flag. There were no ships in sight. No alarms raised in time. Just a subtle whisper through the orbiting stations. Connection lost. Not jammed. Not interfered with. Gone. Deleted like a file from a nervous intern's desktop. On board the diplomatic vessel Ambassador's Mercy, hovering just beyond the Kepler system, Captain Mara Shaw tapped her boot on the deck while unwrapping a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with battlefield precision. 5 worlds down, she said through a mouthful. That's Kepral Dulex, and those 2 moons over Praxis. And, she checked her pad. Oh yeah. Venti Prime's gone too. Cute place. Gray cheese. She looked up at the man standing quietly beside her, dressed in gray, hands clasped behind his back like a museum docent waiting to begin a tour. Still no message from Concordia? She asked. Elias Rain gave the smallest shake of his head. They're panicking, which means they're thinking, which means we've got maybe 2 minutes before they do something stupid. 2 minutes. Mara arched her brow, took another bite. That's generous. The crew moved around them like clockwork, each wearing the same calm efficiency that came not from discipline, but preparation. No one shouted. No alarms blared. There were no cries of war, no vows of vengeance. Just small talk, gentle hands on polished controls. And death everywhere beyond the hull. Mara finished her sandwich, wiped her hands, and said, "All right, let's go full spread. Release the decoys. Deploy silence nets on all remaining satellites. And prep the atmospheric codex for station scorch. If they haven't apologized by now, they're not going to." Elias nodded. "I'll give them a call," he said, already turning toward the holocom. "Smile when you do," Mara called after him. "It unnerves the lizards." Across the sector, 12 different alien command posts began reporting the same phenomenon. The disappearance of core infrastructure, instantaneous and complete. Communications blacked out. Fuel reserves atomized. Agricultural worlds transformed into fields of smoking black glass. No ships in orbit. No energy spikes. Just systems no longer responding. Aboard the Galactic Concordia Emergency Command Chamber, the atmosphere was one step short of hysteria. Delegates barked overlapping orders in 26 languages, some demanding strikes against Earth, others insisting this had to be a rogue AI attack. They were wrong on both counts. Elias Rain's calm, colorless voice echoed across the chamber, interrupting the chaos with the same effect as a whisper in a confession box. "Esteemed Council," he said, smiling faintly. "This is your favorite monkey calling." The screen flared to life with his image. Hands clasped, suit pressed, tea beside him steaming gently. "I understand you've suffered a few unfortunate interruptions in infrastructure. First, let me assure you, we consider this deeply regrettable, but also entirely preventable." The amphibious delegate from Varnath slammed his palm on the console. "This is war." "Oh no," Elias said, eyes soft and sincere. "This isn't war." He leaned in slightly. "This is gardening." The chamber fell quiet. "You see," he continued, "for the past 73 years, your esteemed coalition has treated humanity like a backyard weed. And we were just grateful for the sunlight." A pause. One heartbeat. Two. "But weeds, as it turns out, are patient. We don't grow fast. We grow deep. Through your walls. Through your foundations. Through the seams of your arrogant little empire." He raised his tea. "And now we're blooming." A hand raised in the chamber, one of a younger species, still learning the political game. "What do you want?" she asked. "Land? Power? Control?" Elias shook his head gently. "We want you to know something. That girl you executed, Arden Vale, she wasn't a soldier. She wasn't even part of our intelligence branch. But she was part of our story." He glanced off screen, then back. "And in our stories, when someone burns the wrong girl, we don't rebuild. We rewrite." On the bridge of the Ambassador's Mercy, Captain Shaw watched the slow, synchronized disintegration of another Outer Rim colony. Its oceans pulling upward like marionette strings had been yanked toward the void. She didn't blink. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Bott, leaned over. "We just received a broadcast from the Joric Empire. They're surrendering." "To what?" Shaw asked. Bott hesitated. "To us. To humanity." Shaw sighed. "We're not even trying to conquer them." "Should I tell them that?" "No," she said, biting into another sandwich. "Let them sweat." Elsewhere, Elias walked slowly through the corridors of a human listening post, Station Scorch, buried beneath the molten surface of a now-dead mining moon. The walls hummed with dormant energy, every panel a story of patience, every screw turned by someone who'd smiled politely at the aliens who thought humans were harmless. He passed a group of technicians, their uniforms plain, their faces forgettable. One of them, an older man with grease-stained hands and kind eyes, offered a nod. "Mr. Rain," he said, "the gate is ready. We've confirmed the fail-safes." "Perfect," Elias replied. The tech hesitated. "You're really going to show them?" Elias didn't smile this time. "I'm going to let them look into the cage and realize it's been open the whole time." In the Concordia war room, screens flared red as a final message appeared across all frequencies. A voice, hers again. "Arden's. This is Arden Vale. If you're hearing this, it means you still think you have time." Her image filled every screen now. Not screaming. Not crying. Just waiting. "I volunteered on 14 alien worlds," she said. "I delivered your children. I cleaned your water. I offered you my hands when you had none." A long pause. "And you killed me anyway." She smiled. "So here's my gift to you. Silence. Every human satellite you let orbit your skies. Every Terran food capsule. Every agriculture droid. Every school textbook." Her eyes burned. "They all spoke to each other. You just didn't learn our language." Static. Then the image cut out. Then the silence began. One by one, the stars over alien worlds went out. The systems didn't just die. They forgot how to live. Across the galaxy, bioreactors stalled. Ships stranded in orbit began drifting, their navigation erased. Timekeeping networks failed. Worlds that had mocked Earth's primitive analog clocks now realized they couldn't measure how long they had left. In the quiet that followed, the only human signal broadcast galaxy-wide was a single looped quote, spoken softly, politely, by Elias himself. "We were the librarians. We were the gardeners. You made us executioners." Back on Earth, in a small cabin surrounded by pines and snow, a little boy sat with his grandmother beside a fire. She wore thick glasses and a faded Terra Navy sweater. In her lap was a book, one she had read to Arden when she was a child. "Is it true," the boy asked, "that she's the reason the stars went dark?" The old woman closed the book. "No," she said. "She's the reason they'll never be so bright again." The last conference of the living powers was held underground, beneath the ash-choked sky of Reliver 9, in a reinforced bunker once built to outlast cosmic winters. 7 alien leaders gathered behind reinforced doors, speaking in hushed tones as if Earth itself might be listening. None of them sat. The seats around the war table were reminders now, ghosts of colleagues who had laughed too soon. A lean, copper-skinned diplomat from the Zalith Collective, whose 6 eyes blinked in careful order, whispered, "We need to understand what we've done." The eldest among them, a scaled creature with the weary bones of a world builder, only murmured, "We underestimated the poets." He nodded toward the only screen still operational, which displayed a still image. Ardenvale, young and defiant, moments before her execution. She wasn't military. She wasn't a strategist. Just one of them. And they burned the galaxy for her. Another delegate hissed. "No, not for her. For us. For what we did in front of their kind. And their cameras." It wasn't personal. It was instructional. "And that," a calm voice said from the doorway, "was your first mistake." They turned. Elias Rain stood beneath the arch, his boots damp from snow, his gray suit immaculate, his tone soft as falling ash. There were no guards. No entourage. Just a man with a book under one arm. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said. "But I was in the neighborhood, and someone told me this was where denial had its last stand." Weapons rose instinctively. Pulsars, neuroblades, plasma rigs. Elias looked at them with mild disappointment. "Still threatening the unarmed human," he sighed. "You really do stick to tradition." The oldest among them lowered his weapon first. "You're not here for surrender talks." "No," Elias said. "Those happen before the screams." The chamber fell still. He walked slowly, deliberately, toward the center of the room, pulled a chair out, gently, respectfully, and sat. No theatrics, just presence. "You think this was revenge," he began, "which tells me you never understood us. You raised colonies," snapped the Gluvian tactician. "You made suns turn on themselves. You crippled economies that took millennia to build." "Yes," Elias said. "And yet we didn't invade." He leaned forward. "We didn't steal. We didn't enslave. We didn't demand reparations. We gave you exactly what you gave her, a stage, a beat, and an audience." They stared, half in fury, half in fear. "You see, you believed humans were simple, messy, sentimental. You thought emotion made us weak." He smiled, not broadly, not cruelly, just enough to show the corners of his teeth. "But we used it, like ink, like fuel, like a blueprint." He set his book on the table. No one dared touch it. "When you executed Arden on live broadcast, you thought you were silencing a voice. But she was a key. A soft-spoken girl carrying a coded sequence in her bloodstream, designed to wake systems buried decades ago." "You mean this was planned?" one delegate gasped. "From the start." "Not planned," Elias said. "Prepared. We didn't know who you'd kill. Only that you would. Eventually." He stood again, brushing invisible dust from his lapel. "Our history told us this day would come. Yours told you it never could." In orbit above them, the last human ship, known as Hearthstone, hovered silently above the frozen stratosphere. Inside, its AI watched Elias's vitals, silently cross-referencing patterns of tension and tone with 40 years of recorded diplomacy. Its conclusion: he was not bluffing. Back in the bunker, Elias walked slowly along the table's edge. "You mocked our wars," he said. "Called them primitive, bloody, unrefined. But you never noticed we weren't fighting for land or conquest." He looked each leader in the eye. "We were learning." The screen behind him shifted. Footage, black and white, human conflict. Normandy, Stalingrad, Fallujah, Titan Base. "Do you know what these have in common?" Elias asked. A silence, deeper than fear, settled. They were unwinnable, by any sane metric, any cost analysis. But we won them, because somewhere, buried in our soft skulls and primitive jokes, is something you never evolved to comprehend. He tapped the side of his head. "We will not lose. Not if the cost is blood. Not if the cost is the planet. Not if the cost is time." He took a breath. "We sent volunteers to your worlds not to show peace, but to understand your thresholds. How long it would take before you devalued kindness, before you stopped seeing us as guests." He gestured gently toward the image of Arden. "You lasted a while, longer than most." One delegate stepped forward, young, horned, proud. "So what now? You'll kill us all? Is that the lesson?" Elias turned slowly to him. "No," he said. "The lesson is we don't have to." A screen lit up beside him. Footage played across dozens of worlds. Alien civilians kneeling in fields, setting down weapons, pulling down propaganda signs. Not from fear, from shame. "Your people are not stupid," Elias said softly. "They know who started this. And now they're starting to learn what could end it." He paused. "We won't drop a single bomb. We'll drop truth, broadcasts, testimonies, Arden's voice." He looked up. "Every galaxy has its bedtime stories. You're about to get a new one. One where the humans didn't conquer. They remembered. And that remembering was enough to make your world shake." The old diplomat finally spoke again. "What do you want from us?" Elias blinked. "Nothing," he said. "We've already won." Back aboard Hearthstone, Marishaw leaned on the console, watching the transmission. "Well," she said, "he's doing it." "What?" Bot asked. "Winning with words. Making the monsters afraid of mirrors." Bot hesitated. "Do we keep the fallback plan in place?" Shaw nodded. "Absolutely. Just in case they need a reminder." He raised a brow. "You think they'll attack again?" Shaw chewed her lip, then shrugged. "They always do." Elias picked up the book again as he walked toward the exit. A younger alien blocked his way, eyes wide. You were always like this?" Elias tilted his head. "No," he said. Then he walked past. "But we could have been." It began with a seed. Not a bomb. Not a soldier. Not even a spy. Just a 19-year-old medic named Arden Vale, who brought clean water to frontier colonies and learned 3 alien languages so she could help more mothers give birth in peace. The girl who laughed too brightly and folded her hands after every sentence, as if the world still deserved gentleness. And the galaxy killed her for it. The last 3 empires stood on the edge of collapse, their fleets intact, their pride flickering like a dying flame. They waited in orbit, uncertain whether to surrender or strike, terrified of silence more than fire. No retaliation had come for 2 full cycles now. Earth had said nothing, done nothing. The humans had disappeared again. And that was worse. Because what if they hadn't stopped? What if they were just watching? In a darkened chamber aboard the alien dreadnought Volkethra, Supreme Executor Thyrix sat before a projection wall, reviewing the execution footage again and again. The girl's posture haunted him, not broken, not arrogant, just still. "Why her?" he whispered. "Why did that one matter?" "Because she was never supposed to," a voice said from behind. Thyrix spun, weapon raised, but the figure already sat, legs crossed, back straight, perfectly calm. Elias Rain. He wore black this time. Not formal, not diplomatic, funereal. And his face held no smile. "You're trespassing," Thyrix hissed. "No, I'm remembering," Elias replied, fingers laced. and giving you the chance to do the same. I won't be lectured by a Terran bureaucrat. Good, Elias said. Because this isn't a lecture. The screens behind him flickered. Images of civilians stepping out from hiding, of alien children being lifted onto human ships, of border colonies waving both flags. But also still always her face, Arden's face, etched onto buildings, tattoos, tapestries. A martyr no one had expected. She wasn't part of your military, Vyrix snapped. She had no clearance. No security clearance. No encryption. She was nothing. No, Elias said. She was everything you refused to believe a human could be. He stood slowly. That's what made her dangerous. A tremor passed through the ship. Subtle. Almost imperceptible. What did you do? Vyrix growled. Nothing, Elias said. She did. The executor blinked. The girl? Yes. Arden Vale. Elias tapped his wrist. She planted empathy bombs. Vyrix laughed once, a short, barking thing. What the void is that? A weapon your kind's never developed, Elias said, stepping forward. She didn't carry data. She carried witnessing. Every world she walked, every child she healed, every village she protected. That was the trigger. The people remembered her, loved her. And when you killed her in front of them, they didn't rise up out of fear. He stared into the aliens' many eyes. They rose because you burned the one person who believed you could be better. Vyrix's voice cracked. You think that's a strategy? I think it's humanity. The ship rocked again, stronger this time. They're turning on us, an officer screamed from the hallway. The outer colonies. We've lost relay posts in all 12 sectors. They're helping the Terrans. They've deactivated the central AI. Vyrix bellowed. Our own people. Elias didn't move. You could have apologized, he said. You could have buried her with honors. Sent us her name, her bones, even one sentence of regret. He shook his head. But you mocked her. You televised her pain. You laughed. He leaned in, his voice low now. So we let your people see who you were when no one thought they were watching. The ship groaned. Power flickered. Vyrix drew his weapon. Elias raised nothing. She never lifted a gun, he said. The lights dimmed. She just smiled and gave more than she had. Alarms flared red across the ship. One final transmission bled across every frequency. Arden's voice, soft and unfinished, clearly recorded before her capture. If you find this, and I'm gone, tell them I was grateful. For the time, for the trust, for the chance to see stars that didn't belong to us. And if they choose cruelty again, tell them not to be afraid. Tell them we're already here. The command deck trembled, then fell silent. Above the dying fleet, Earth's dreadnoughts drifted into view. Not firing, not even armed. Just present. Their hulls bore no markings. Just names, Arden. Mercy. Memory. Promise. From orbit, Earth broadcasted only one message. We don't conquer. We remember. Elsewhere, in the fields outside what once was the capital city of the Varnat Dominion, a child picked a flower growing from cracked stone. Her parents had once taught her to fear humans. Now, her teacher had tattoos in Terran script. She held the flower up to a passing soldier in gray. Is this one of hers? The girl asked. The man nodded. Yes. She planted these. Elias stood on the bridge of a Terran vessel one last time. The stars were quiet now, and the empires were fractured not by war, but by the echo of what they'd done to someone too kind to fight back. Mara Shaw stood beside him. So, is this how peace begins? Elias shook his head. No, he said. This is how they learn to fear their reflections. She smirked. Damn, that's cold. It has to be. A long pause. She was just a girl, Mara. And now, Elias turned to the stars. Now she's history.